The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Discretion is advised.
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. This is an exciting day, and I'll tell you why. Do you want to know why, Heidi?
Why?
I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because the man sitting across from us, I don't know what he does for a living, and I've known him for over 10 years, I feel like, at this point. We've been talking about having this man in here for a long time. He has an incredible story, and that story is now being told. If you're listening to this, you can go watch this show now on Netflix as we speak. It's called Dirty Pop, the boy band scheme. And our guest
That's
today,
not right, actually.
What? What are you talking about?
It's Dirty Pop, the boy band scam.
Oh, what I meant scam.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Our
You
producer,
can just call it Dirty Pop.
Our producer is stoned, and I think I have a residual contact stone.
Yeah.
Dirty Pop, the boy band scam, and the guest today is my very good friend, the one and only Michael Johnson.
Woo!
Buddy.
Yes.
Incognito Johnson, we're going to call you for a little bit.
I love it.
Good to have you here.
It's crazy to be here, honestly.
It's weird. But I'm stoked. I heard this story from you many, many years ago. And when I first met you, you're just a very nice, normal, very cool, very likable guy. And
then
I found out that at one point you were on the run from the FBI. And the best part is you didn't know it, which is amazing to me. Yeah. This show on Netflix, you and my best friend Lance, and one of your best friends, Lance Nichols, you both executive produced this show, but you're also in the show because a lot of it is your story. What's the premise of the show?
The premise of the show is there's kind of two storylines. There's highlighting the pop music explosion that happened in Orlando, Florida in the 90s with Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears, LFO, O-Town, all those bands.
It was like the grunge scene of boy bands, basically, right?
Yeah,
like Seattle.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It was like Motown, like Sub Pop, like whatever. It actually became bigger than Motown and Sub Pop and all those other scene labels. But at the same time, all of that was being funded by criminal activity that was decades in the making by this man, Lou Pearlman. A man of which I became very, very close to as a mentor-protege type of relationship. And yeah, eventually wound up unwittingly on the run from the FBI until the laughter is necessary throughout this entire process because it's insane.
It's wild, dude.
And it's weird to say that was me. Like that was something that happened to me.
Yeah.
And that was something that I was a part of. It's so bizarre. And also part of this story is a bit of a cautionary tale because the exploitation of celebrity and misinformation within that is rampant.
Sure. And you didn't know any of that until you were like neck deep in it, it seems like.
Almost up to my eyeballs. It was almost all consuming for sure. And when you're in it and you're so close to it, you have no idea that anything could ever be wrong because everything is so good, so over the top, larger than life, private jets,
larger
yachts.
than life.
There you go.
I get it.
I know. It's just you can't believe that it wouldn't be real when you're hanging out with world leaders and politicians, bankers, all these things. You're like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like right. I'm at the table with the leaders of the free world.
Wow.
And I'm 15,
right.
16. So you're like, you can get sucked into it so easily. And
sure.
It's crazy to continue to watch people get sucked into little worlds like that still.
And we're talking about Lou Pearlman, which is, if you know anything about music at all, you've definitely heard his name. Everyone in the world has seen the bands that he seemingly single-handedly created. And it
wasn't even seemingly. He single-handedly created,
put it together piece by piece, and saw this opportunity. Good job.
Thank you.
He was just hanging tough, It's just he was just a new kid on the block, just trying to put it. That was one of the bands he wasn't a part of, but that was kind of what he based his. He planted the seed of like, oh shit, you put together 5 good-looking dudes who can sing, and you can change the world in a way.
Yeah, well, and he did.
Yeah.
For me, it was him seeing New Kids on the Block, good-looking guys.
From Boston, by the way, but whatever.
Obviously, yeah. Well, that's where all the best-looking guys are made, and best dancers too. That was kind of a perfect storm for him, I think, because he had been floundering in an entrepreneurial sense with his like weird other scam businesses that he was like fraudulently getting off the ground. With blimps and helicopters and planes.
Dude, a blimp company. Like, who else has ever thought of having a blimp company?
Right. I mean, so he
I'm gonna make my money in blimps.
Well, that was after. I have to tell this story because
Please.
it's one of the origin stories of this maniac of.
I'm sure there's so many stories. Like, by the way, I just want to say, if you are looking at this show on Netflix and you think it's just about boy bands, it is so much deeper. Like, there's so many more human stories where, like, I really don't like that music at all.
Yeah.
But as I'm watching this, it makes me care about each of you and each of them a lot more because, like, oh, they're just people. I was a young guy with a music dream too. But I just want to say, like, don't be dissuaded from watching because it's about boy bands. It's so much more than that.
With like a really good crime documentary too.
Exactly.
That's how I saw it.
Netflix
It's so good.
does those perfectly. But anyway.
Oh well, I'm happy to hear that because having been so in the bubble of like the boy band world, I wanted it to be for everybody and not just like friends of mine who don't like boy bands, which I don't necessarily either. I just was in one.
Right.
I didn't even really like it at the time. But
but guys, the drummer from Natural is in the building right now. I mean, come on, for Christ's sake!
Lucky you.
I never thought this would happen.
Lucky you.
You know.
I wanted it to be for everybody as a human story and American tragedy, cautionary tale type of thing. And you don't have to like boy bands to like the show. So thank you for saying that. Mm-hmm. But this is one of the stories that I think defines Lou's early days perfectly. His cousin is Art Garfunkel of Simon and Garfunkel. Lou is this chubby, insecure, unpopular kid in school, and his cousin is a famous rock star. What do you?
Yeah, he's a rock star. Folk.
Yeah.
I mean,
folk star.
He's a rock star.
Yeah. Part
Especially
of the Americana
the
fabric.
60s and 70s, it doesn't get much bigger than Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, and so he was just trying to scheme his way to having any sort of friendship and recognition for doing anything. The way he found friendship was through starting these little businesses and like hiring neighborhood kids, and then all of a sudden he felt like he had a friend even though he was paying them. So it was like an employee, but it was like a friendship. So it was like this little family he was starting. And he wanted to start this helicopter charter company that would charter people from JFK Airport into the city, which is genius. Like,
great idea.
It's incredible.
And it happens now. I almost
still happens
did
now.
it at JetBlue.
Yes, exactly.
What?
So in order to have a charter company, you need 2 helicopters to be kind of going. In order to get your charter permit, you need 2 helicopters. So he went to Art Garfunkel's father, Lou's uncle, and said, I want to start this. Can you loan me the money to buy my first helicopter? He said, I'll loan you the money to start for your second helicopter. You have to go get your first, and then I'll come in with the second. So Lou went and rented a helicopter and forged all of the FAA paperwork to show that he owned it. So then his uncle pitched in and got him the other helicopter, which then he had his first to go get to somebody else to get the second.
Wow.
So his first scam was his uncle.
His
basically.
uncle. Yeah. I mean, it was just wild, the things that he was able to do, let alone to have the idea, but to actually pull it off when you're a teenager. He was a teenager in college, and he was like defrauding his own family to start what are actually genius companies.
Yes.
And like
successful ones.
Yeah, if it started in a legit way, it would have been great. But he was constantly trying to, like, he was building the plane as he was flying it. You know what I mean? It was like that type of thing always. Jesus. And so like that story for me just like defines this man in such a unique way.
Do you know where that came from? Does anyone know where that came from in him? Was that the kind of stuff in his family? Did he read books about it as a kid? Like what?
Here's the weird thing.
Yeah.
And I actually want to do some sort of doc about this, even though I don't think anybody will care. But in his neighborhood at that time,
He was in New York, right?
yeah,
Yep.
like during that time, it was like Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, Frank Abagnale Jr., who is the subject of Catch Me If You Can, Donald Trump, Bernie Madoff. They're all from the same place at the same time. Like they came up around the same time in the same place. And it was just like the birth of fraudsters.
Right.
In this one area that like, and there's many more that I can go down the list of like people that are from that time and that place that I think it was like the birth of like the greed is good era and like Wall Street.
Oh, Wall Street
and
like New York has so much money anyway.
yeah,
and
when
people
also
just-
like never apologize for anything, double down on your lie, just like don't stop lying and you'll be fine. And it's just like I think a lot of that machismo greed thing came from that time and that place for these little street kids to be like scheming always. And like some of the guys that worked with Lou played like handball with Jordan Belfort and like all these guys. It was like this little community of fraudsters. Like so weird.
Right. So it probably gets to a point where they're trying to even like competitively one up each other on what they can get away with, probably too.
Yeah, I mean, like they all kind of held each other in this like really high regard in like a weird way. I remember Lou closed a deal with Trump for these like blimps, and he was like so excited to be like working with his like kind of peer that was like this weird fraudster guy. Oh, like even in like the 90s.
Now these stories that you're like this stuff now with, did you hear this stuff from Lou directly, or is this from people that you talked to later on after this all went down about like Lou's younger life?
A combination of hearing it from him, hearing it from his inner circle that grew up with him, and also the amount of paperwork that I've gone through in the past decade for this thing is like goes back to like his elementary school days when he was like writing letters to Art who was on tour. Like it's crazy.
It's amazing. I remember because we just watched this. Netflix was very kind to send us a screeners of all 3 episodes. So we just watched it before you got here, and I was blown away with the research and how much like newspaper stuff and actual old contracts and his forged letters and letterheads and letters. It's like how. I mean, I'm sure we could do a whole show on how you got all that information. It's just insane how much research you guys did.
Well, luckily, I mean, our partner on this was Time Studios, like Time Magazine, who like there's not a more credible journalistic company than that. But I mean, honestly, as filmmakers, we had to do most of the legwork and like talk to the FBI, get all of their paperwork, file a Freedom of Information Act requesting to get all the paperwork from that. We had almost locked picture when the FOIA information came to us, and we're just like,
that shit takes years. That shit takes years.
And so like we talked to everybody, like childhood friends of his, everybody we could and we were just like, can you check your closets for any stuff that you have? And like if they would say no, I'd go back again 2 weeks later, just check.
Over the last few years that him and my buddy Lance have been working on this, I feel like every time I would text Michael, I still call you Silky Beats is your name on Instagram. So you're Silky to me forever.
Yeah,
so every time I text Silky, he's like, I'm in Florida, I'm meeting these people. They don't want to give up these videotapes, but I'm walking away with cases full of videos and cases and like full of files and shit. Yeah. You guys did so much hard work, and it is nice to see it paid off. Like you guys made a great show. I
mean, just with the subject matter alone, like there's enough to fill like 10 episodes, and the amount of archive and files and everything that we got. I mean, it's tens of thousands. It's just crazy.
I just want to, like, before I forget, you were saying about how all those guys like Bernie Madoff and stuff. I had said during the show, I said, it's interesting how in that time, it was all coming out. So it's almost like they started it back then, and then they just couldn't keep up anymore because they couldn't, because you have to take someone's money first and them to invest in it and do all this, the Ponzi scheme.
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting. You said that they all came out at the same time, but then that same time was when everybody was like, where the fuck is my money? And they're losing their life savings and stuff.
Well, Florida is I call Florida a sunny place for shady people, because it's
nice.
it's like, if you look at white collar crime and Ponzi schemes and stuff, 90% have origins in Florida, and a lot of them are New Yorkers that set up shop in Florida to defraud people.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's really awesome, yeah, and it's still happening today, by the way.
Yeah.
And so it's very around that time, just before the crash of 2008 financial collapse, people were starting to really put pressure on a lot of these fraudsters in ways that were not happening before.
Like to get their investments back, kind of thing.
I mean, like politicians were like no longer just like turning a blind eye, and people were like actually checking into things.
Right.
And oftentimes, even with our story, it really it took one FBI agent to be like, you know what, I'm actually going to look into this. And then the journalist as well did the same thing just to crack it.
That was Helen Huntley.
Helen was the journalist, yeah.
And your buddy Skinner.
Yeah, good old Scott Skinner.
From the
Who
FBI.
is so funny because like when he interrogated me before, he was a terrifying human being. And like when we interviewed him, I was in the room like going through questions with our director and stuff, and I was like, he's so nice.
Of course.
He's like the nicest guy ever, just like trying to do good by like American citizens.
Right. He's a civil servant.
Yeah,
But when he's trying to like bust people, I'm sure he can be pretty terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a very strange time, and I always liken Lou. Like Lou is basically if there was a combination of people, it would be Bernie Madoff, Clive Davis, Howard Hughes, and Frank Abagnale Jr.
Wow.
It was like all in one person in this like just unbelievable way that it just, I can't believe that I was associated with somebody like that who is so genius and so terrible at the same time.
Well, that's what makes it. That's probably why he was so successful, is because if he was just a piece of shit and was also rude to people, it would never work. You have to be able to tap in and like, I think it might have been you that said like he made you feel like he was going to make your dreams come true like instantaneously, where like he made you put you at ease right away.
The way he could read people was like if he met you, he would be selling your dream back to you within seconds. Yeah, like
Wow.
and I would watch it with new people meeting him, and I was just like, damn, man.
Yeah.
Like, but oddly enough, it never made me question my role in that, or like my relationship to him. Even though I was watching it happen with other people, I was like, man, you just got that guy to like sign a deal, and you just met him, and like you sold his dream back to him in a way that was just crazy.
Well, let's talk about. I want to talk about like how you actually met him, how you got involved in this story. Back to like, when did you just start playing music? How, like, what were your hopes and dreams, and how did this come about where you actually got to be involved with Lou Pearlman?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Orlando, Florida, my sister was 4 years older than me, and she was always in the performing arts, theater, dance, all kinds of stuff. And obviously the theme parks are there, so like kids would work at the parks, like dancing and singing and doing the whole thing. So I actually started dancing when I was 4.
By the way, seen the videos of you
saw
dancing. It's so weird seeing you like that, because you're not that guy to me.
I know.
You're like a professional, like.
But now you're just that guy to me. You're no longer this current you.
Do I need to take my shirt off?
That was amazing.
Okay.
You're teasing it a little bit, but
yeah. So I was a showbiz kid. I was like a performing arts kid because I was following my sister's footsteps, and like dancing, I like took to it right away. Theater, I took to it right away. I also played sports, and you know, you can be playing football and go into the locker room with a bunch of dudes, or you can go to dance class with a bunch of chicks. So I was like, kind of like the performing arts thing a little bit more. And
your parents were supportive. I know your mom a little bit. I mean, she's the sweetest woman in the world.
Oh yeah,
she backed this dream of yours.
Both of my parents supported me in my sports games and my sports ball games.
sports game.
Yeah, and they loved my costumes for my sports games.
cool.
And they loved my uniforms for my my dance classes.
Perfect.
So yeah, it was a hell of a time. Like going from ballet class to football practice. You can imagine the names I was called, but so I really took to performing more than sports, and I was in a dance class, and the Backstreet Boys were in the lobby of the dance studio waiting to use the studio for rehearsal, and I was 11. That's when I met them and Lou. And
were they anything yet, or was this at the beginning of Backstreet Boys?
They had just been formed. Like I think the fifth member Brian had just joined.
Like when you watch Dirty Pop, available on Netflix now, you can see the way Lou just had everyone perform every second they got. At one point, they're standing outside of a school bus singing to kids with the windows open. Like his thing was just always perform, always be ready, and
always had to be on.
Walk away from every situation with at least one more fan.
100%, or investor.
Right. We'll get into that too.
Yeah, and what's funny is every single one of the band members for every band always had a pitch pipe in our pocket to like be ready to sing a cappella at any time. And going through like airport security, everybody would place their pitch pipe in the tray.
So
it was
amazing.
Like, insane.
Okay, so you're at the dance class.
Yeah, so meet Lou in the lobby. I was 11, and my sister's like dance group performed for the Backstreet Boys, and there was like a whole thing. And the Backstreet Boys were doing a school tour, and they came to my middle school.
So cool.
It was crazy. And Lou was there, and he remembered me from the dance studio. And this was a couple years later. And I was like, that's insane. Like this, everybody knew him as this billionaire businessman from New York that was coming to Florida to build this empire. And everybody was like, oh my God, like people like that don't exist here. So the fact that guy remembered me years later from that dance studio lobby just blew my mind. And at that time, it was very much like the grunge scene in Seattle, Motown, and Detroit. Like people were flocking to Orlando, Florida in the thousands to form bands and get discovered by Lou. Like by the maybe hundreds of thousands. It was certainly tens of thousands.
I mean, he literally had the power to make you a superstar.
I've never seen anything like that even since. Like it's just
not even Quincy Jones had that kind of like of can't miss kind of deal.
And so there were these like parties in the suburbs where like Timberlake and Britney Spears and all these like boy banders would be at these like suburban house parties. So we'd all go, and I met a bunch of friends, and that we all kind of like clicked and started a band together. And we realized that we all like could play instruments, and like, okay, we were like, let's try to form something. So we started rehearsing in one of the guys' garages, and then we started. A producer discovered us. And we started like making a demo. And we rented space at Transcon Studios.
Wow!
And
explain what that is for the listeners that haven't watched yet.
Transcontinental Records was Lou's record label that he started out of thin air with no experience whatsoever.
Literally.
Yeah, with like a bunch of riffraff kids from New York, and the studios became where everybody wanted to go. It was like these three multi-million-dollar recording studios and then rehearsal spaces where...
Was it the big building that they show? Like the $8 million...
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So like we would be there, and Dr. Dre would be there, Creed would be there, Eminem would be recording.
Anyone
Alicia
big
Keys
or no?
Yeah. I mean, I just said Creed, dude.
Sorry, I didn't
I
know.
just said Creed.
Sorry, I'm an idiot.
And so we were renting space there, and Lou came in when he was filming Making the Band, and like found us, and we auditioned for him, and like we played instruments for him, sang a cappella for him, and he was, I guess, blown away.
And this was natural. This was natural. You guys were already formed when you started working with Lou. You guys were your own band already.
We actually, with this other producer who had produced some stuff for Backstreet and NSYNC, we had gone to New York to do label showcases, and we did 13 showcases in one day.
Jesus Christ.
13 half-hour showcases in one single day.
How many different venues? Was it one venue?
One. It was at SIR.
Okay, of course.
Yeah. And we just set up, and they would just file in like every half hour.
I've done those before. They're the worst.
It's
vibeless and just like
it's
panic.
so soul sucking that it's just like, why are we doing this? And we no offers, nothing. So we just went back to Orlando, and then Lou discovered us, and all of a sudden we were flying around the world on private jets, touring the world.
How old were you when that
When he signed us, I was 15, almost 16.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Did you drop out of school?
Yeah. I left high school middle of my junior year.
Is that why you're so stupid? Is that
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always think you were just being so.
I didn't just lose my soul. I also lost all of my smarts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is that like when? What I'm trying to say, when Lou says I want to sign you guys, what is that process like, and what is that experience like for you, in your band?
I remember it very vividly. It was such a show. The courting process with I've been signed many times after Lou, but the courting process is usually like big steak dinners and like come see this, like come backstage at this another label artist that's like bigger than you or whatever.
This could be you.
Yeah.
Sell you the dream.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
This was almost like an initiation into like a family. It was so different than like a corporate label or something. It was like, we're all a family here, and it's us against the world, and we don't fail.
It almost feels like mafia type
100%
initiation or something.
It was 100%. And everybody around Lou had also kind of come from nothing and was kind of just like this like blind loyalty or blind faith to Lou. And they would say, we should be like on the streets. And because of this guy, we're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and we're meeting with governors and mayors and sheriffs and whatever. So we're like, this is like kind of a can't lose type of thing. And for our parents, it was like, this is a chance for our kids to have an opportunity to do something more than go perform at the theme parks, which, I mean, people have careers doing that. And
of course, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when we were signed, Backstreet and NSYNC and Britney there was nothing bigger, and they came from him. Right. In the studio that we were standing in.
I didn't know that Britney Spears was in that girl band.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
They were called Explosion or something. Right?
That would have been better, but they were called they were called Innocence.
Oh,
but spelled all stupid.
Yeah. Well, here's a funny story that didn't make it in the series, but I think it's just unbelievable. It's a Britney Spears story. She was in Innocence, which was Lou's band, signed to Transcon. He was managing them. And a guy named Larry Rudolph was one of his attorneys.
I feel like I know that.
Me too.
Famous,
that sounds
right?
familiar.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Okay.
Britney was wanting to go solo, and Lou owed Larry like $400,000 or something in legal bills. Jesus. And he was like, "No, I'd like to become a manager." So to wipe away his legal debts, Lou turned Britney over to Larry. And Larry Rudolph became her manager for the rest of her career.
So it worked out.
It worked out.
He made his $400,000 back, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's right. I just read his name.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Wow.
And so Lou wasn't always the most business savvy guy. He was always just trying to like just stay above water
And get the heat off.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that was a moment where it was like, get this guy off my back.
Yeah.
And probably gave him
Yeah.
$100 million.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. At least.
Whoa. Okay.
But we were talking about the signing process.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Just like what it meant to you and what that was like.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
And what was the deal? Like, was it a 5 record? Like, what was the deal?
It was a 6-record deal.
Okay.
And it was what became known as a 360 deal. But this was before that happened. Like it was.
Explain a 360 to people listening.
A 360 deal is when a label takes a percentage of your record sales, a percentage of your publishing, a percentage of your merch, a percentage of your touring, basically all encompassing of your career. They take a piece of, and Lou got in early on that. So he was really taking a piece of everything, but he was also paying for everything. Mm-hmm. So in addition to that, usually when an artist signs a record deal, the band forms an LLC that they incorporate themselves, and that LLC or that incorporated entity signs with the label. He made himself a part of that entity as well as a sixth member, which then signed to the other entities. So
Which you find out in the show, Lou is getting paid as an equal band member and his manager fee.
I thought it was
and
just
label
a saying.
and publishing
Oh, so he's
and
making,
touring and merchandising.
so he's making so much more than anyone in the groups.
Well, you would think.
Right. Well, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one thing that like is still in the series, but I like to address it in a way of like everybody read their freaking contracts before signing something, because a lot of the bands still say that they were like blindsided by the fact that he was a sixth member and he was taking all these things, but it was in the contract that you signed. So it's hard to say you were blindsided when it was in the contract that you signed.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
When I watched it, I was like, do they have a lawyer that's looking at this?
I bet it was Lou's
for
lawyers.
them?
Was it Lou's lawyers?
I mean, to a certain extent, but also there are not like the most savvy music attorneys in Orlando, Florida at that
Right.
time.
And also, you guys are
you're
kids.
15,
All of you are
right?
kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
And, like-
were not reading it.
Yeah.
Like the lawyers said it's fine, so we're like, okay.
And also, I'm willing to bet, I would assume, because I know myself, if I were in your shoes and this guy who could make me a superstar wanted to be a sixth member, I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
Fine.
I didn't care at all.
when can I start doing the
exactly.
cool shit?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah, gas up the jet.
And there's one part when I was watching it, I don't want to give away too much of the show, but we have to talk about some of it. But because Lou, it talks about how Lou fronted the money for all the travel, all the dance lessons, all the singing lessons, and like gave people places to stay. So I'm watching that. And part of me is like, yeah, I get why he would want to get a big chunk back. He is taking, by the looks of it, all of the risk at the beginning.
Yeah.
All of the risk.
Of course. I mean, he spent more money than any label would ever do to break a band. Like, especially a band that had just formed, never even played a show. Like, he was spending millions of dollars on these kids to make them stars, and he made them stars. And yeah, it was just him having to front the money to do that. Yeah, like Andy says in the series, what is that worth? Like, what is it worth to you to be the biggest star on the planet like Justin Timberlake is now?
Right.
Like,
I think
so true.
You
someone
can't put a
said,
number
like,
on
they'd
that.
sign it with raccoon blood or something.
Yeah, Chris.
Like,
Well, yeah, and Chris from NSYNC, who's an amazing guy, amazing storyteller. He's great in the series.
it's funny.
It's like I always, you can see that transformation in people when it's like, I would have signed this contract if it was written in raccoon blood, and then at the same time they say I was blindsided by what it said. It's like,
But you sign anyway.
you would
that
sign it
doesn't really
anyway.
matter.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just a very strange position to be in when you're a kid, and of course you're going to take that deal. I mean, even where we leave the series off is like we wanted people to kind of think like, would you do that? Like, chances are, yeah. Like 90% of people probably would take that deal.
We all talk about like signing a deal with making a deal with the devil. Like
Yeah.
most of us would do it to make our dreams come true.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's like you do it.
Yeah, exactly. And you just like tell yourself that you're going to like stay, like keep your soul through it all and like stay grounded and whatever. And some people do, some people certainly do not.
How much of the like promised success did you guys experience with Natural?
We were selling out arenas around the world, and not necessarily in America. Like we had a couple gold records here in America, but like Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Scandinavia, Japan, Southeast Asia, like we were selling out arenas, and it was like, unfortunately, we thought that was normal.
Right, of
So,
course.
you know what I mean,
And you think it's going to happen forever too. That's another
100%.
thing. Like, wow, this
Yeah.
is my life for the next 50 years. This is great.
yeah. I mean, this is Lou's. This goes to show Lou's power and kind of magic. We achieved that success because we were his next band. Like before, we would show up in countries before even releasing a single, and the airport was flooded with fans.
Wow.
And they would like pretend they would say that they were in love with me and know my family's names and stuff in like Japan. And I'm like, promise you don't know me at all. And you've never even heard a song of ours yet.
How did he do that?
It just, everybody was looking to him to like just spoon feed them their next favorite band and their next favorite like high school lover.
He had the power to tell you, you love this band.
Yeah.
But no, you love this band.
Exactly.
And it worked.
Yeah. And it worked globally in a way that like it was actually for me and a few of the other guys in the band. I fanatical people make me feel very strange. And so it was a very, at a young age, being just bombarded with people telling you that they're in love with you because of this, that, and the other, which are things that just are not even true. Yeah. It was bizarre. So, but that makes you insulate even more to the family that Lou built because, being on tour, it's a bubble. It's not
real life.
You're not in reality in any way. So being in that bubble with Lou at the helm of this like family, like
a cult
just
almost.
this universe, that he's created, and it's working because there's an arena full of people that are like telling you that it's
the proof is right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was bizarre.
What did your mom and dad do? I mean, did your parents go on tour with you, or was there like a
No,
chaperone?
His mom was head security.
yeah. So our tour manager actually became our guardian.
Was that woman that's in the?
No,
on
the
show?
guy that was a New York cop.
That was the guy.
Yeah.
What's his name in it?
Mark
Okay.
Piacenza. Yeah.
Wow.
So he became our guardian. The ones of us that were underage. And yeah, I mean, our parents just kind of sat back and like cheered us on because it was. Also, at this time, my sister was like on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
So it was like a whole like
The dream.
she's the
Well,
we were
that's
both
cool.
doing.
Your parents
like,
were so proud.
Yeah, it was like the greatest thing ever.
When this was all starting for you and your friends, was there anybody who was being like, what's going on with this, or be careful, or like this can't be real? Did anyone seem to warn you at all?
I mean, honestly, my sister was skeptical always
She was.
because she's just like a big sister of like, who's this guy that you're around all the time? And, but I didn't have like friends from high school really. Cause like my happy place was outside of high school doing like the arts. And so I didn't really have like these were my friends. These were like anybody that I was friends with in the performing arts community, I was crushing it. You know what I mean? So they were like, "Oh my God, you're doing it!"
Right.
So and thinking about Lou as an individual, he's a very eccentric guy, but coming from the dance and the theater world and whatever, that's how everybody is. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't any different than my dance teachers or my theater directors.
That's a good perspective to have because I think from the outside, if you're just looking at Lou or watching this story, he does seem like a weird dude.
Yeah,
but
he was an odd guy.
Creative people in that world tend to be a stranger or just different or like, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Well, I mean, I've had this conversation with my parents of like, I kind of think that I'm like not as successful as I've always dreamt I would be because I'm not absolutely insane.
No, you're not.
And like, I'm not a drug addict. I'm not like a crazy person that all of my heroes are nuts.
Yes.
And I'm just not.
Which is why, like, meeting you and knowing you as well as I do, seeing you be a part of this story is like it's about a different person.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And you're also such a smart dude where part of me wants to know, like, and I'm sure you've been asked a million times, especially by the FBI, when you were eventually on the run from the FBI. You were not. You were with somebody who was on the run from the FBI. For how long were you on the run?
Like 8 months.
8 months.
Oh my God.
Like, the question is, how do you not know that?
Well, usually when people are on the run from the FBI, they don't accept lifetime achievement awards at global
Right, it was
award
in
shows.
Dublin, right?
Yeah.
Like Ireland, you're like going.
Yeah, we went from Dublin. We went to Berlin, and he accepted another award at like the MTV Awards in Berlin. So usually,
How did the FBI not pick up on that stuff?
you got me, and that's
Did we not have Google in the mid 2000s? Like,
Maybe,
not
maybe
really,
There
I
was,
mean-
maybe there was like an inside thing or something. Maybe
There-
somebody.
Oh, here she is. Yeah, conspiracy time.
There you go.
I got to solve this. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I thought that was going to come from the stoner over here.
No,
Oh, no, it's all me.
He can't even talk right now.
Did we start yet?
Maybe somebody like, I don't know, like
Well,
didn't
that was-
tip them off or something.
And there were things on the news in Orlando that like he was in trouble, but then we would be in these places with like, again, world leaders and accepting awards in public places on televised, and we were having meetings with huge television producers because we were developing television projects together, kind of after making the band and Hogan Knows Best and like all those.
that's
all those,
right.
Oh yeah.
You met the Hulkster, dude.
Oh, dude.
Hogan knows best,
We'll get
though,
to
I
that.
remember
Hogan does not know best. By the way.
What about Brooke? Does Brooke know best?
She's nice.
She's nice.
She's nice. But yeah, it was not your typical on the run from the FBI story.
Right.
Yeah, and I would be flying back and forth to the States and then go back and meet him in Germany or Panama or Bali or whatever.
Oh, so you weren't with them the whole time? You would come
Not
back
the
and, like-
entire time, a lot.
Yeah.
But it was just, I had been doing that always. I had always been
Nothing
flying
new
on
for you.
No.
And
I-
how old were you at this time?
I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah. So from 15 to 22, I had been flying to Bali and flying to Panama and South America. So it was just like,
Normal.
and I had gotten to know a lot of these like big producers and leaders in these countries that we were meeting with. So it was like hanging out with your buddies, collaborating on a new TV project. I just had no clue. And Lou was always in some sort of trouble. And I love the narrative that a lot of quote unquote successful people say, well, when you're at the top, everybody's trying to tear you down. When you're at the top for the wrong reasons, everybody's trying to tear you down. When you actually make it to the top and you've done it right, that's not necessarily the case. Yeah. But he was always surrounded by lawsuits and turmoil and things. So hearing that there was something going on that was kind of amiss that had been going on the whole time. So he was living in the gray area forever, and that's all I knew.
Did he ever show any kind of concern when that stuff was happening, or was it more just like, just trying to get me again, like whatever, just roll with it? Or did he ever seem scared to you, or
he was
nervous?
He was stressed, but he was more stressed to make things right, because at this point, a lot of his closest friends were pissed and trying to find him to like bring him to justice, and he was. His
closest
goal,
friends being people that invested money with him, or just closest friends, period?
Well, there weren't friends that didn't invest. You know?
I see.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And or have some sort of stake in the game. He was more concerned about making things right than being stressed about. He was not worried about going to jail. This is a quote that he. There's two quotes that stick in my mind that I wish made it in the series, but they did not because I blanked. One of his best quotes is, "It's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's what you know about who."
Oh,
and he lived by that. Of like, it was like that Oppo research thing that he would always have.
Wow.
And then another gem of his was. Because he was very close to like the Attorney General of Florida, the sheriff, lots of lawmakers and leaders. He was like, I remember he said to me, "Well, if the people that make the laws are saying it's okay, isn't it okay?"
right.
And I was like, "That's
Can't argue it. You
yeah,
can't really
that's
argue
true.
with it.
Yeah, it's like if the Attorney General is like giving you carte blanche to do whatever you want, why would you be worried
Right.
until there's a new Attorney General? Or that Attorney General decides to care,
Right.
and then you're toast.
You're toast.
You
That's
wind
what
up in
happened.
prison. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
As you're watching the show, I mean, I know you guys are telling the story you want to tell, but it seems like he took to you specifically, like that you guys had either a closer friendship or a closer something than the other guys. Is that accurate? And if so, like, why you?
From a very early on, he always decided what your friendship was going to be pretty early on. Like he had different relationships with literally every single person in his life.
Okay.
He was kind of a different person to every single person in his life. And I'm just a very curious person, and I've always been very curious about the business. Like I love more than I ever should the entertainment business and how it works and why it works and how people got different places and how things are made. And so our first conversation was how he built this empire. And it was something that I wanted him to teach me so that I could develop bands and I could produce bands and I could, outside of my career as an artist, I loved just like how weird term to say in this subject, but how the sausage is made. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
And so that was our relationship. But yeah, it was very much like mentor-protege. Mm-hmm. When I wasn't touring, he would take me to his business meetings with all these different people, like other label reps and all these different people, and that I just got a kick out of learning from him.
And you did learn some legitimate stuff in there.
From the people around him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From him, I learned what not to do.
Okay.
But again, I think I said it earlier, he gave me a seat at the table to learn from the people that are at the highest level in the industry and in politics and all that.
Okay.
So,
I mean, you just kind of joked about it, and it's touched upon a little bit in the doc about like, I mean, if it's so easy to look at him and look at the bands he put together and assume that there was some kind of like sexual angle to what he was doing. Yeah. But I've talked to you about this before. You never saw that. You never experienced it. But I'm sure you can understand why people would see that and think it.
1,000%.
What are your thoughts on that whole thing?
I mean, by the time we were getting signed, we had heard rumors too.
Rumors from
just like surrounding people in Orlando, not necessarily like
not from the artists, not from
the artists. No, it was just like people in Orlando that were in the scene, but not like in the inner circle. And one thing that my sister and I always talk about, and we're always talking about like these days, like don't say gay in Florida, and like drag queens are like the Antichrist or whatever. Like it's very easy in the South to conflate being gay with pedophilia.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that was very prevalent with this situation. He was very much, if he was anything, he was gay, but he was closeted because the machismo thing is like the way that generation was.
Right.
And he was afraid, from what I could gather from our friendship, he was afraid to come out because his empire would collapse if people looked at him in that way and associated him with young men and whatever, even though they already did, which is kind of why you'll see in the series, he had the girlfriend that was his nurse to kind of cover things up.
That was such a wild story.
It's crazy. But he was aware of what people thought of him. And he tried to play it off. Again, he's this like fat, insecure kid that's just trying to be liked, and then this is a thing. A lot of those rumors started with Nick and Aaron Carter's mother, who made those allegations against Lou very early on in the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because they had their own show where, didn't that come up in their show? In the
most recent one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was the allegation?
That Lou had sexually assaulted Nick.
Okay.
And then even in talking with the FBI, who that case got turned over to the FBI because obviously it's a sexual assault on a minor, and it
But he was beautiful. I mean,
he's a cute kid.
You know, I mean,
cute kid. Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Those blonde locks. And
I mean, I'm Team Lou here, guys. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
But that those allegations very quickly were turned over to the FBI and flipped as an extortion charge on Jane, the mother, because she was trying to extort Lou of $100,000 and by making those claims, she was extorting him. And so then,
Like basically saying like I'm gonna say that you did this unless you pay us 100 grand.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so then both kids were deposed under oath, and they denied anything ever happened. But the rumors started going nuts from that. And a lot of in approaching this series, I have as a creative person, I have no ambition to make a series about a pedophile. So I turned over the past 12 years, 14 years or so, every stone I could ever come across to be like, did this happen? And it was always when you say Lou Pearlman, everybody's like, oh, that pedophile, that pervert, whatever. And you're
It's
like,
so easy though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a very easy label to give someone like that.
And
not
and
fair.
I would follow every one of those rumors, every one of those allegations to the person who the rumor was about, and they'd be like, "Oh, it never happened to me, but I heard that it happened to so and so," and I just kept going to the next person, and it never came to fruition. Anything that actually happened.
So it's like a game of pedophile telephone, basically.
It's the best.
And then you get to the end, and it's like, oh, that never happened.
Well, and also a lot of other allegations.
By the way, the name of this episode is Pedophile Telephone
I love it.
with Michael Johnson.
Yes, exactly.
With silky
Yeah.
beats.
Yep.
Other allegations were hurled at him from like disgruntled. He would a lot of like his limo drivers and things. He would promise places in the next boy band or something, and when that never happened, they would like,
To limo drivers?
oh yeah, all of his drivers or assistants or whatever. And a lot of those guys, when they realized that their dreams were not going to be realized, they made allegations. And one guy said Lou tried to kiss him, which maybe, but the guy was like 23, so that's not necessarily pedophilia. That's a gay man trying to
Right.
come out.
Right. Make a
So-
move. Make a pass.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you've done the same.
Yeah, to most of the men. Almost all the men.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
fine. It's fine, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
So,
how
yeah.
we met, actually. I tried to kiss you at a bar.
Yeah.
So it's if you think he was a closeted gay man, but you have no feelings about him being
I think-
inappropriate with young men.
I will always leave the door open to maybe.
He seemed
Maybe
asexual.
He was very
He was
asexual.
very like an Andy Warhol sort of like isk.
Yeah, and also he was
Power
like,
was his lover.
exactly. Power and money
Uh-huh.
was his how he got his rock
That's right. Hey.
That sounds just like him.
Yeah, it's her. It's her.
Not what you think. Wait,
But yeah,
okay.
if he was asexual, if anything, he was gay, but he was also more OCD than like Howie Mandel. So the thought of him touching like he was grossed out by us. Like if we would be in the limo and like it was like too crowded, he'd be like, "Oh, you guys stink," and like roll down the window and like
It's funny you said because there's so many
Interesting.
clips in the show of like the guys climbing all over him and like piggybacks.
It
and-
drove him nuts, which is why
Oh, really?
everybody did
Which is
it.
why he did it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was like the goofy kid that you pick on, and when you found out that like he hated like farts or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
you would like trap him in a room and like fart, so he had to sniff it like a.
Oh, that
Beautiful.
poor
You know
guy.
what I mean?
Beautiful. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say there was, I forget what it was, but you were in New York on 9/11. Was it for the
right.
Michael Jackson thing? No, that
was.
was it. Was it for
Yeah.
the family tour or whatever?
It was Michael Jackson's last concert ever, by the way. Just
Was it really?
I still have the ticket. Yeah,
You were there.
Wow.
Did you meet Michael Jackson?
I did not. I met the other Jacksons.
Okay.
But yeah. Oddly enough, we'll go back to that in a second. But Lou had flown Michael Jackson down to Orlando for a couple weeks, and Michael was staying at David Siegel's house. I don't know if you watched The Queen of Versailles. Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And
Wow.
Lou was going to pay to re-record Thriller because Michael Jackson's contract was up and he could re-record it.
He was gonna pull a Taylor Swift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while Michael was in Orlando and they were getting ready to record it, Michael got indicted. So it never happened, but it was crazy. But the concert was able to happen. Madison Square Garden, 2 nights. The Jackson 5 reunited, which Lou did. He was helping Michael and the Jacksons get back together.
This is September 10th of 2001.
September 10th, 2001. We had the best night ever. The next morning, we were on our way to a photo shoot, and we saw that one of the towers had gotten hit, saw the next tower get hit.
Did you see the plane hit with your own eyes
second
or
one,
on
yeah.
TV? You saw it with your eyeballs,
With eyeballs.
in the sky.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
We were in Tribeca, which is like right down near Wall Street, and so we were getting stuck there. And like Lou's a giant person, and traffic was terrible. Everybody's freaking out. We ran from Tribeca to Times Square, where our hotel was. I'll never forget
How
Lou
sweaty
trying
was
to
Lou
keep up.
Pearlman?
Yeah. It was a sight that
You
I'll
guys
never
like,
forget.
we got to get out of here.
Yeah, but yeah,
Bye.
and he exactly he
Sorry.
he was. I mean, he's terrified.
Was he tall?
No,
No. Okay.
more wide than
Yeah.
more,
He's very
more out than
very
up.
ball shaped.
Yeah, very. Yeah. And so yeah, he for him not having cell service or something, or not having access to just communication, what like for him could be the end because of this scheme that he had going.
Right.
So he called the White House and promised his fleet of airplanes for evacuation and supplies to New York, and promised his 55 airplanes for evacuation in
Which didn't exist.
which didn't exist.
Right?
Right.
It's just,
So
guys, watch this show. It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
So he's promising an airline that doesn't exist to the president of the United States in order to get on a flight down from New York to Orlando, which we got on.
With natural.
and there was
Yeah.
no no flights. There's no one's flying.
We were the only civilians in the air, escorted by F-16s down to Orlando. A boy band that nobody's ever heard of was in the air. And the weird thing is like Michael Jackson was in New York. He wasn't in the air.
He couldn't get out.
No. Like NSYNC was there, all the Missy Elliott, all these people, and we were the only people in the air, escorted by the military down to Orlando.
Wow.
It's
and
fucking
that's
astounding how powerful he was and the
Yeah.
connections that he had.
every time you would doubt him, and like early on in our interview, he said, "Did anything seem weird? How could you not see whatever?" Because he pulled shit like that off. You know what I
He
mean?
always came
Right.
through.
Yeah. And it's like, even if 9 out of the 10 things seemed bogus, he would pull off the one biggest thing that could ever exist. And you're like, and it erased the other 9. And it was just something that it's so hard to explain, but it
How did
yeah.
you get to the airport? From, like, your
in
Times
a
Square?
limo. Yeah.
And just pulled up onto the, because because it was all closed, right?
So
Everything was
we drove from New York to Philly in the limo.
Oh wow.
And we were either, before we got clearance to fly, we had one of his tour buses driving up from Orlando to either fly or take the bus, but we got clearance to fly, so we flew
It's just unbelievable.
So from Philly.
from Philly. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was, the airport was closed. When we arrived in Orlando, the airport was closed, and our families were there, just like, what the hell is going on?
When that's happening, when you're on a flight on 9/11,
9/12.
9/12,
Yeah.
our buddy Lance's birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Great day to have a birthday.
Great. So when that's happening, are you like to each other like, I can't believe we're flying? Or at that point, things are just so normal?
Normal.
This is like years
Wow.
later, you're looking back at me and like, I can't believe that we flew on 9/12 because of Lou Pearlman.
Because of being there, it still doesn't seem weird to me.
Right.
I know that nobody else did. Like
Right.
that's how I can rationalize it. Like, I know that nobody else did, but I did. So it's like,
Like I Dave and I both work in this world, the music industry.
Yeah.
Heidi played bass in a metal band for years.
Incredible.
But like, so we know the stuff that can get done.
Yeah.
But this is on a whole different
yeah.
level.
Well, okay, so you guys in your world, you know that high-level people, whether it's politicians or bankers or lawyers or whatever, most of them would do anything to trade lives with you for a day.
They
And,
would do
like, be
anything
honest
just to stand side stage at a concert and be
Right.
like you said in it, just to be near
Yeah.
to be near a celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and that goes all the way to the top. I mean, like, the things that people would do for their daughters to meet Taylor Swift are immeasurable.
Yes.
Right.
Like, the things that people will do that are very powerful people to be close to a rock star or close to a pop star or whatever, it's just, there are no bounds
Yeah.
for that type of power. And people people in that position. Lou was a master of weaponizing that. Like that, he could exploit people's need for fame and celebrity or need for proximity to that in a way that was like obviously very dangerous, but it worked for him for so long that he could just
It's gotta be so easy too. So easy.
Oh my God.
So easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sister and I were joking, like, if Lou was still around today, like, we just joke about the clowns in Florida that are running the state. And we're like, can you imagine what Matt Gaetz would do to be backstage at an NSYNC concert?
Man, so many young people for him to talk to. So I imagine you're still in touch with a lot of the Backstreet, NSYNC, or the people that you came up with, especially making this show. Do you guys feel like Lou truly cared about you?
Well, for starters, I was never really in like the in crowd of the boy band world. So I was very thankful for those guys to sit for interviews for this series because like we're not close at all. I respect them, but we're not like friends.
Right.
But we do have so much in common.
That's yeah.
Where in I give them so much cred for still being around, especially Backstreet, still touring after 30 plus years. The adversity that everybody faced and they stayed together and kept crushing it after all we all went through is just a testament to their talents and their abilities. But I think if you asked any of us, like you just asked me, did we feel like we were close with Lou? 1,000%. I would have called him one of my best friends in the world. And I was playing in Atlantic City when I found out that my grandfather died, and he gave me his jet to fly to the funeral and then be able to fly back and play a show. And like I would be in Japan or Southeast Asia or wherever, and my girlfriend broke up with me, and he would be the first person on the phone with me, talking me through it. What can I do? Like he was everybody you talked to that was in his world. He was the first person to call them on their birthday every year.
And that was genuine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard to separate. Like, was he doing that because he needed to control everybody? Or was he just actually able to separate all of that and be a genuine friend? Because I know that he enjoyed friendship because it's something that he fought for and did all of this for, honestly.
And didn't really have as a kid. Doesn't seem like a whole
Not
lot
at all.
Yep.
No. And I truly think there were many sides to him. One was the sociopath narcissist, and another was a very deep, caring friend. And I think these schemes were always to impress people, to bring people into his life, and it just snowballed and got out of control, like way out of his control.
Yeah. There's someone somewhere in the show they're talking about the snowball of like as it's building, like you just
Getting bigger and
just
bigger.
keep going and never stop.
Yeah. And it's, unfortunately, he was a horrific businessman. He was incredible he was an incredible salesman, but a terrible businessman. So a lot of the deals he did, he just got absolutely bent over the barrel on. And so he never really got to enjoy the success of the bands that and the companies that he started because he had done all these terrible deals where he wasn't able to enjoy the fruits of all that labor. So it's tragic. Like he had no clue what he was doing, had no business being in the music business, but he pulled it off bigger than anybody has ever done in the pop music world. But at the same time, he never got to enjoy it.
So crazy,
Crazy,
man.
Yeah.
So now that the show is out and you've seen it, how do you feel about the project that you guys made? Because you've been talking about it for so long.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to get a version of this made since 2009.
Right.
Wow.
So that's not last week. And I'm incredibly proud of what we pulled off.
You should be.
It with any of these things, it's a collaboration of, you think you have this vision and like this is what it's going to be. It's going to be the best, and then you start pulling together the team, and everybody has it's a collaborative process. And then with a network like Netflix, like that does these series better than anybody on the planet, you listen to what they have to say. They know their viewership. They know what people want, and they know the strong points of a story like this. And so I think we found the sweet spot of that sort of high level collaboration. If we would have done it independently and just tried to like run and gun this thing, it would have been a very different thing. But I'm insanely proud to have this on freaking Netflix.
It's pretty amazing.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
it's like if you're going to make a show like this, you kind of really only want it in one of two places. It's Netflix or HBO. I feel like that's like where you want stuff.
Yeah, that was our...
And Netflix is the one.
Yeah. And I also think like in this past week, I've kind of realized there's been like a weight kind of thrown on me because like a lot of these people from Orlando have been texting like, oh my God, it's coming out. How do you feel? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like telling your story too.
Right.
And one thing I hope is that I hope it comes through that there were ordinary people that achieved something extraordinary and changed music forever and had no part of the crime. And because of the crime, they haven't been able to get the shine that they deserve for what they created.
Right.
I think that comes across well. I mean, you were, right there for all of it. But I think as viewers, I feel like the story is told about a bunch of people who worked their asses off and achieved something.
I have a question though.
Can I finish my
totally,
thought I'm in the middle
I
of?
just wanted to make sure like we're not.
Sorry, she's like this all the time.
It's my ADHD. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just really rude.
Sorry,
Sorry.
ADHD.
No, but like it comes across as very kind, well-intentioned people achieving something incredible, and then having it tarnished by someone doing shady shit, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And we're getting to your question, but I want to say like even with
Heidi, relax.
even with the big boy band guys and everybody that sat for this interview, like the last time a lot of these people talked about this subject was when their like souls were being ripped out of their bodies. You know what I mean? And the last thing that a lot of these people knew about the entertainment business was that. So for everybody to sit and talk about this experience, it's both bringing up serious trauma and also talking about some of the best times of their lives. So it's like very conflicting, and I am so thankful to
Must be
everybody
cathartic for all of you as well.
Oh God, yeah. And even with like the Backstreet Boys guys, NSYNC, O-Town, they opened up in a way that I've never seen them open up before, because I feel like our approach was genuine and honest and balanced, and it wasn't just a hit job or whatever.
None of them come across bad. If anything, like it gave me like a new respect for. I mean, we make so many jokes about boy band guys.
I know,
but they have the same dream I did of making music for a living, and they actually fucking did it and still doing it. But they come across really well, really well.
I remember that.
No, go. Mine is not. Mine is you go.
Are you going to remember it, though? Are you going to remember the question?
Maybe.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. 'Cause I remember very, very early on in the process, you saw a very rough cut.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget you saying, man, I've spent my entire life hating these boy band guys. And after seeing this, they're actually kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah. And I meant that.
And I was like, oh my God, I think we're on the right track, because like they're great guys and they're like super driven and super talented, and they're just normal people.
If any of them had or have any apprehensions about this show, I hope they understand. Like I see them in a different light, a whole new respect, and I think they all come across really great. I mean, honestly, really, really great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, you got the floor.
No clue. I'm just kidding.
No, you're high.
Yeah.
You're sitting too close to him.
Heidi feeding
I
her.
don't know. I don't want to give away anything, but I mean,
Lou dies in the end. Spoiler alert.
No, but
When?
Frankie, I was obsessed with Frankie because I think he's so cute.
Don't spoil that one.
and his mom and everything. No, don't. Can't say that.
well,
yeah, no.
okay.
I'm
I mean,
wondering.
there's a way to talk
I was
about it
wondering what you
without
thought,
giving it away.
what you think if you think what happened, did Lou have anything to do with it? Does that? I didn't give anything away.
That's all right.
We should just go ahead and talk about it.
Sure, go ahead. Go for it.
Okay, because this is actually a big deal that we did not include in the series because a lot of people got kind of they talked about it in their interview and they actually got scared and told us not to include it.
Who is Frankie?
Frankie was Lou's best friend growing up in Queens.
And he lived in the same
lived
apartment.
in the same apartment building, and they got involved in the blimps together. Frankie was Lou's best friend, right hand man with all of his endeavors, all of his businesses. Frankie was always the guy. He was like a part of Lou, and he was like the jacked like mobster looking guy that was.
He's
like,
a beefcake, dude.
He
oh
was,
man, yeah.
heartthrob.
What I wouldn't give for rolling the hay with
heartthrob.
Frankie.
Heartthrob number 2.
Yeah, come on now.
and yeah, he was as close as they come to like Lou's brother, basically. And it goes to show Lou's, I don't even know what to call it, but like he had an ability to take the life savings from Frankie's mother and from people's families that just believed in Lou and believed that he was going to be the next thing. And then the next thing was the next thing. And like,
This is where you're like, fuck that guy.
Right.
It's this kind of stuff.
right.
Yeah.
And Frankie, we'll just go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, if you don't want to
I'm
know,
sorry.
if you don't want to know,
Yeah.
I
You can
always
stop-
ruin things.
Turn this shit
you can
off.
stop listening now and come back later. But anyway, go ahead.
Frankie dies.
Yep.
Right when the
I'm kidding.
So
I'm kidding. I got to do it.
right when the kingdom was crumbling, Frankie died, and it was right when
And you were very close to him because in
was
it,
close to him, yeah.
you have a very emotional moment talking about this very thing.
Oh man, and it's I'm emotional in the series because I've experienced a lot of close people dying since that. So my reaction to Frankie's death at the time was very, like, I didn't really have a reaction, and I was kind of being told to suppress it by Lou.
Interesting.
Wow.
And like his reaction was just like, you know, Frankie like couldn't keep up with the business. Like, don't be like that. Like,
And this is his closest,
friend.
lifetime friend.
Yeah. And so since then, I've experienced tragic losses of close friends. So I actually now know how to feel about what happened in the past.
I see.
So talking about Frankie's death, I associate what I now feel when I have lost somebody close to me. And because it happened at a time where things were starting to crumble, a lot of people think that Frankie knew what was going on and was going to out Lou to the feds, and that Lou had him killed. And even his mother thinks that. So,
Well, it makes sense because a mother, it's listed as a suicide.
yeah,
Right?
it went down as a suicide.
And no mother wants to think that their child would do that.
But it also kind of, and also being, I mean, I'm not conspiracy, but hearing
It's
it,
just-
it seems like you're.
She's
I
the
watch
most
a lot of,
conspiracy.
I watch
You're
a
flirting.
lot of crime stuff.
She thinks
And
Oswald
to
did it.
me, and to me, it seems like he was like this well-dressed, like
Yeah.
just this, he was handsome. And to me, what was told was that he's sort of disheveled and out, like maybe
At the end.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like what if he? And then there's other things that were said that made it seem like from the woman who said that he said, I think he was murdered.
Yeah.
So Lou even said that, but like, why would you say like? I don't know. It was all. I
Yeah,
was like,
it
what
got
happened?
very cloudy very quick, and at that time, and this is the part that a lot of people wanted to remove from their interviews. There were Russian guys that were around Lou in the very end that were starting to invest in his companies and like launder money through Transcon, and that was how Lou was staying afloat. Was these like Russian weird, dangerous people. One of which recently got out of prison for helping Giuliani and Trump with the Ukraine stuff against the Bidens. That was
I remember you talking about this.
yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Lucky for me, I knew that guy too.
Jesus.
But
Some of the stories you've told, we can't talk about on the air, but the amount of corruption and horrible shit in the world is
It's
just
insane.
Yeah.
And to see these people that were enabling Lou all this time now still be heavily influencing politics in our lives is terrible. But his name is Lev Parnas, by the way, if anybody wants to look it up.
I'm a big fan, Lev. I think
Wow.
I don't think you did anything wrong, bud. Just for the record. Yeah.
But just to talk about one day in the life of making this series, and I hope this comes across in the series because I think it's a definitive day in the making of. Before we got Julia, Frankie's mother, to sit for an interview, I was having phone conversations with her, and she was like weeping on the phone with me saying, Lou had Frankie killed. I know it. Here's how I know it. Frankie would never feel like he couldn't earn the money back that I had invested. Like, I think she had invested $150,000 and she was like, that's not enough for him to kill himself. And she was like weeping, telling me how she thinks the Russian guys killed Frankie. And I was just living with that of like, oh my God, do we even interview her? This is like so heavy. And then that night where the MTV VMAs, where NSYNC walked out on the stage as they
With
had
Justin again.
with
yeah.
Justin again, and it was like celebrated and
Which is in the show.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
the show, and Taylor Swift is calling them like pop personified, and she can't believe she's getting this award from NSYNC. And I was like, my day today is what I want people to feel when they watch the series. There's such dark tragedy, and then also so much to be celebrated that came out of this whole thing.
That is life.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
It's absolutely crazy.
That is life. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about Frankie? If you don't want to answer, that's fine too. I'm just curious. Do you have a definitive thought?
I think there should be a whole other show about Frankie.
You would love that. You
Oh
would
my
love
God, I
that.
would love
I truly don't know. I wouldn't put it past somebody that had their back against the wall to have him killed. And it's crazy for me to say that about a friend of mine. But it's also crazy to think that Frankie would take his own life.
Sure.
Maybe Lou didn't have anything
That's
to
what I'm
do
saying.
with
It
it.
could have
Maybe
been
it
just
was
someone-
the Russian guys that were like, oh,
It could have been investors.
he's losing it. He's crumbling, and then our money laundering thing is going to get messed up. We need to
Yeah, I
take
mean,
care of him.
I don't know why I've never thought of that before. I don't know. I've
Sorry,
I've always thought of it as like, yeah, he committed suicide, and like that's, I mean, the manner in which he did it, it points to suicide. So
It's also hard to figure out like, well, which one hurts less? Which reality hurts more? Suicide, where someone was so low they did that, or
Right.
murder? I mean,
it's
both
also
are
it's also insane to
tragic.
It's also insane to think that we're trying to decide was it murder or suicide when we're talking about the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
You're right, which is why, again, why the show is fascinating.
It's so good.
Because
Yeah.
something like just on the front, boy band, happy songs about love, and like it's cheesy and it's whatever, but like behind the scenes, there's so much stuff that people don't realize about any industry, but the music industry and how dark it can get. And
Oh yeah, I mean, like the squeakiest, cleanest, poppiest music in the world was funded by darkness and
lies and deception and
exactly.
like defrauding family and friends
Yeah.
of hundreds of thousands, if not and millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, another death associated with this that also didn't make it in the series, but it's insane. An investor that lost everything hired a hitman to kill him as like a suicide for hire, so that his family would get the insurance money.
Oh my God.
And the guy that he hired did kill him, but then confessed. So
Oh God.
So no insurance money.
no insurance money. The dad is dead. Jeffrey Locker's dead, and the guy's in prison for 25 years for killing him. So it's just
That's not what you call a win-win.
No, it's a loss across the entire.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
So it's just like the negative ripple effects almost match the positive ripple effects around the world
Right.
that that came out of this story.
I have one last question. Do you have anything before we
No.
wrap? You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, come
Robbie?
on. We got to hear you. You have a question for sure.
Well, when's dinner?
Anybody have any brownies?
Wait, is
ahead.
that your house that you were in? That beautiful, the backdrop?
Oh
with
God,
the
I wish.
records and the
No, it was a.
He's homeless, actually. He's homeless.
Yeah, no,
Lou
I
bankrupted
have
him.
no home.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it was a cool spot. Unfortunately, this is a hilarious thing. It was the only location that we shot at that didn't have air conditioning.
Oh, great. Like this room right now. It's pretty hot in here right now.
It was about like this.
Yeah.
It was
Perfect.
about like this. Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, everywhere I go, it gets steamy. I wonder why.
Dirty Pop is on Netflix now, and when you watch it, it's not really a spoiler, but you pop up in the second episode, and you're basically with Lou closely till the end of his life. Like
Yeah.
when everybody had kind of turned their back and washed their hands of him, you were still there for him. You were still talking to him when he was in prison. You were one of the very few people at his funeral. And my last question for you is, after all said and done, why did you stick it out with him? Like, why did you stay in his corner?
I feel like I don't have a lot of friends, but the ones I do, I'm insanely loyal to. I feel like you're the same way. Like
Yes.
you would
Yeah.
do anything for the people that you care about.
Of course.
I
I think everyone here, yeah.
yeah, I would imagine you guys would as well.
Nah.
And so
Whoever has edibles, that's his only friend. Is
yeah, I had this sense of loyalty.
The Leo thing, too.
And also, oh boy.
fuck up.
Sorry.
Trying to be serious here.
That's for Anna right there.
Well, Lou was a Cancer. But I don't know. I didn't feel like I owed it to him. One part was he had like wanted me to tell his story. So that was like kind of the
What do you mean?
the spark,
Like
that
his life
started-
story?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, explain that. That's not talked about in the show, I don't think.
Yeah. So when we were in Bali, unwittingly on the run,
At the
he
tail
was-
end of his
at the tail
freedom.
end of his freedom.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a hilarious story. 4 days before I left, because I realized what was going on and he was a fraud, I filmed him pitching his own life story to Philip Seymour Hoffman to play him.
We were just talking about how he'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I just said he could be played by Philip Seymour
Yeah,
Hoffman.
and I
Do you have that- do you
I
have the
mailed
footage?
the tape to Philip Seymour Hoffman's agent, and his agent is now deceased as well. And I can't find the tape.
You only had one copy?
Of course, it was like a little mini DV thing.
You
that I
idiot.
just- yeah.
Oh my God, that would be so amazing to have.
And because of that, Lou signed his life rights over to me for his life story to get this movie made about his life.
Rareform Studios, let's make it.
Let's do it. And
Wow.
and then when I realized he was a fraud and everything that was going on, he went to prison. I was like, okay, I'm gonna cool it here, because the story that I know and would have told is obviously not the story that actually happened. So that's honestly when I started digging into this story for what you see now. Was because of that.
So you didn't turn your back because of just loyalty for the guy that was there for you.
Yeah, and he was, even when he was in prison, he was like one of my biggest cheerleaders. Like I would call him and he'd be asking about like my career, and he would just be this voice of like positivity and like just
Wow.
boost me up in a way that I couldn't do myself.
You showed on the thing, like you have you have all his calls too. Like he would be.
He honestly called me every single day, and I didn't answer every day. I answered like once a week. And then I started, I figured I'm being recorded on the jail side, so I started recording the calls too. And it was a trip. And it's very difficult to talk to somebody in prison because you can't say, how you doing?
Right.
Right.
Like even, you can't say, how's your day?
It sucks.
Yeah, it's
Every day
awful.
sucks.
Yeah.
It's the same every day.
Yeah.
Have you
And he
had-
was getting beat up and stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
Have you ever had a dream about him? Has he come to you in a dream? I know this is weird, but like.
Honestly, here's a funny story. Anytime that I've had somebody close to me die, they I know it might
Hey,
be
we
like
go
hitting it.
we go wooing here all the time.
Okay. they like something shows up in like an animal form or something.
Yeah.
You're gonna make her cry. Here we go.
And when Lou passed, I was going to like a memorial for him with some of like the New York guys, and I was
Trump,
like,
Madoff.
yeah, exactly, yeah. All
His
the
boys.
bangers, yeah.
Sorry.
And as we were pulling out of the driveway, there was a giant snake going up the fence, and I was like, "That
he
is
is.
perfect.
Wow.
That is perfect."
Wow.
It's like a lot of my grandfather and my grandmother have come in different forms of birds and all, and I just
Yep.
like hold that very near and dear of like, I don't know, something to
Yeah.
hold on to. And he came back as a snake.
I mean, it's kind
It's
of
perfect.
poetic.
It's perfect.
It's pretty perfect.
Wow, he did
Yeah.
that on purpose.
I know.
Like,
It was amazing.
wow. Thank
but
you.
yeah.
Sorry, I know that was a
Oh no.
weird question.
No, that's a good question. It was a good question. It was a
And-
very Heidi question. I love it.
And I think you see in the series, he is in an unmarked grave.
Yeah.
Like the guy who changed pop culture forever in a way is still in an unmarked grave because family won't approve a headstone.
When
that's-
did he pass?
2016.
Have you been to his grave
Yeah.
since?
Yeah.
You did.
I went probably 2018, something like that. I was
All
on
right.
tour, and I was like, man, I'm close. I think I'm like close to the the cemetery,
Wow.
and I went, and the lump of dirt is now just kind of has some grass in it.
Wild.
Even the plastic little placard that said his name is gone now too. So it's just
Just nothing.
nothing. Wow, it's crazy.
The man who left a mark doesn't even have a marker.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, listen,
I can't remember who said it, but towards the end of the documentary, somebody said like they were concerned that the public was going to assume they were in on it. Did you have any of that, like in your personal life, people assuming that you knew the whole time?
never mind the FBI thinking you were
I-
involved.
Other than the
certainly
FBI,
did.
but did you feel like the public or people in your circle all came at you?
A lot of people at that time in my life didn't even know that I was like with him because they had kind of parted ways with him. So it like the people closest to me knew that I hadn't done anything wrong, and I had to prove that to the FBI as well. Thankfully, I did. But yeah, like you said, a lot of the boy band members were like, "Oh my God, am I implicated in all these crimes?" And what's crazy is all of us none of us had any clue what was actually going on. And a lot of those times that we were having to perform in restaurants and on airplanes and all these things it was a show for investors, for Lou to be like, look what you can be a part of, now invest. So in that way, we were all absolutely a front for this crime, but we had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird to know that these bands and like some of the biggest stars in the world now were literally a front for a 40-year crime.
It's such a story.
It's crazy. Like Justin Timberlake was a front for the longest running Ponzi scheme in American history.
There it is, right there. That's a beautiful thing.
And it didn't even ruin the world tour.
No,
Wow. This is
no, and he's still huge. Dirty Pop, available now on Netflix. Go watch it. Spread the word. I think you guys absolutely have a hit on your hands.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is it's going to be one of those talked about. Have you seen this shows? I have no doubt in my mind. I'm very, very proud of you and Lance. And you and I have been talking about having you come on here for years and years. And now it makes sense to have you here. So thank you for coming
your
and
first
talking
time?
about it.
This is my first time, and honestly, doing this makes it real.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to talking about this on this show since we started making this thing.
Yeah.
And now that it's happening, I've listened to my girlfriend be on the show, and I'm like, God.
Yeah,
one day.
his girlfriend is Anna Camp, two-time guest on Rare Form, one of our
Yes.
truest favorites. And please tell her hello.
She's my pretend bestie.
Yes,
We're in
I have to
school.
plug her.
Yeah, you
Wait
do.
a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh shit! Can we plug her too?
Hey, I gotta ask first. But she's about to have like the biggest year of her entire career with.
She's got some cool stuff
yeah.
coming.
Hysteria on Peacock.
That's
Yes,
gonna
when-
be so good.
When is that airing?
That starts in October.
Amazing.
I just saw the pilot. It's mind blowing.
And it's about the panic,
the satanic panic
yeah.
of the late 80s. And she is unbelievable in it. And also she is playing twins on the show You in the final season.
Oh,
on
shit.
Netflix.
Amazing.
I heard that show is great. I've never actually watched it, but I heard it was great.
It will be
I'll
now.
watch now.
It'll be great now, yeah.
Well, she's the best. You're the best. I'm really happy you're here. And I really am sincerely. I'm so proud of you
It's
guys
crazy.
for finally doing this. And I
It's
know,
crazy.
I know you guys have interviews lined up. I know you had one. Did that one this morning happen?
Yeah, we honestly, we've been like thrilled at the response from press. Because like, you know, with this type of thing, you're getting on these like interviews with The Guardian and Variety and USA Today and all these
Yeah.
people, and you're like, am I about to get ripped to shreds here?
No.
Right.
You can't. You can't because if anyone
yeah.
if anyone's watched it, like there's really only one person to blame for all this stuff.
Right.
Like it's
I'm
not
glad you
it's
said
not
that,
your
yeah.
guy's fault. It's not your fault. It's not anyone in the bands. It's not any of his employees' faults that they were lied to.
Right.
And that's the deal. You were all lied to by someone who actually cared about you, which is the ultimate betrayal. But
Yeah.
it makes sense why no one questioned it.
Well, and I also feel with people like outside looking in that are expecting to see what they want to see going into the series, they're all expecting to see like a pedophile story.
No.
And we didn't find it, guys.
Yeah.
So
You looked.
yeah, we looked, and so yeah, there's so much more than that to this series, and I'm very happy that you watched it today.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
You guys
I'm
enjoyed
gonna watch
it.
it again when it comes out. It's so good.
Amazing. We'll,
And-
we'll
and
take
not
all the
bullshitting.
views we can get.
If it
Really
wa-
good.
if it wasn't good, we would just say we didn't have a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah.
But we did watch it and it was fantastic.
Listen,
Yeah.
knowing you, I know that you were going to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's why I kept texting him, like, have you watched it yet? Because like when I wasn't hearing from you and I knew you had the link, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, man, I've been real busy. I'll get to it soon. I'm sure. I have a present for you. I wanted to give you a broken Taylor Hawkins stick, dude.
No.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. I know you're a drummer. You're a great drummer, and I know you're a fan of Taylor's as well. But I have
Well,
a few. I have
thank-
3 of them. And that's one of them.
Wow.
This is next level.
Yeah.
Thanks to you, I saw one of his last shows.
That's
Troubadour.
right. They're for NHC.
And it was one of the most mind-blowing experiences to be that close to him in a room that small, watching him play.
really see what he
and
does.
beat the piss out of the drums
Yeah.
in such a unique way. And
Yeah.
like oh my God.
Aw,
This is
and it's almost your
this
birthday
is
too.
crazy.
So it's like a
this is like this is a birthday present for the rest of my life. Every birthday.
well, I appreciate you being
this
here.
is crazy.
And I'm happy we can do this, and hopefully you can come back in again, even maybe with Anna, and just shoot the shit sometime.
Let's
Because
do it.
you really are.
There's a lot of shit to shoot.
Yeah, we love shooting shit and shit getting shot. We tell Ann every time I do how much I love you. You're truly one of my favorite people in the world, and I couldn't be happier for you and my best friend Lance for making the show happen. And
man.
thank you for coming in.
I appreciate it. This, like I said, being on this show makes the whole thing real because of you.
On a
you
scale of 1 to
guys.
10, how great do you think I am?
You're fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
That works. That works.
No, and again, like I was nervous when you weren't texting me about the series because I know that you're that honest.
Oh, yeah,
And-
yeah, yeah.
And there was a chance that you would be like, guys.
I'd be like, guys, you had fucking 8 years. What is this pile of shit?
Yeah, exactly. So
More like net sucks.
And I also know that you understand like loyal friendships and like standing by somebody when they fuck up and
Sure.
So I know that you. If I ever go to prison, I'll be
you will.
calling you every day.
You're going. Say hi to Michael Johnson on Instagram at Silky Beats.
Yes.
Watch Dirty Pop on Netflix. Spread the word. Proud of you. Thanks for coming in. And everybody else, we'll be back next week. Heidi, if people want to support the show, what can they do?
oh boy. Go to patreon.com/rareformradio.
That's right. That's
Holy
right.
moly.
And just spread the word. If you enjoyed this video, like it. If you share this with your friends, spread it like AIDS or something. That's what we do around here. That's what.
Is it still AIDS or there's got to be something?
What's the new one? Spread it like monkeypox. Is that still a thing?
Syphilis.
Syphilis?
Syphilis. is
Have
cool.
you seen those?
Oh yeah, the
Eye
billboards.
syphilis?
Eye
That's right.
syphilis is a thing
That's
right
right.
now.
It's like a new Apple product.
Yeah.
It's that pen you
Perfect,
write on with
perfect.
your iPad.
Michael Johnson, thank you so much. Dirty
you,
Pop on
guys.
Netflix now. Go watch it, like it, enjoy, and we'll be back next week.
This is Lola, and I'm here to tell the world to stop being such pussies and listen to Rare Form Radio.